again. Welcome to the second meeting of August 1st for the Johnston County Board of Commissioners. I'll now call the meeting to order. The first order of business is we had two boards that we had to vote on. We had more applicants than we had positions, and I'd like to announce the results of those. First appointment was to the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board. Jeff Carver was appointed to that, and the nominee for the Hospital Authority was Brad Oakes. And so I need a motion to approve the ABC board appointment. The other one will come back to us from the hospital.
Mr. Chairman, I move that Jeff Carver be appointed.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is approval and discussion of the agenda. We do need to add a closed session item, and that will be for economic development and attorney-client privilege, and we'll make the motion when we get to that point, but I do need to make that, and that will be after board comments and reports. So, all right, any other changes to the agenda? If not, I hear a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as stated with the additional closed session.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the agenda is approved as modified. So next up is the public comments portion of the meeting where any member of the audience can come forward and speak to the board for 3 minutes. We ask that you come forward and state your name and your general location of where you're from. And please keep all discussions civil in nature. And again, this is an opportunity for the board to listen to comments. It's not a time for exchange of ideas and discussion. So with that, Mr. Preston, good to see you again. And you have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chairman Lauder, to the commissioners. I'm just looking for a update on what I asked about last time I was here, I believe the 18th of July. Because I'm just looking at what's, going forward if somebody is charged with some criminal offense and, actually out on bond and still sitting here on the board. Once again, I'm not asking for anybody to step down. I'm just saying I think there should be something out there that would allow for you to be able to suspend or have them not basically recuse themselves from voting on issues and items until something is actually decided. And this is not a witch hunt. I don't know the gentleman to my right, but more than a hole in the wall. I mean, it's just more of a moral thing of how things should actually work. I know that if I was working in a different position and was accused and alleged to have done the things that we have heard that have been done, I mean, there's no way I would have my job. So I'm not even asking for removal. I'm just asking for, shouldn't there be some common sense law that says if you're accused of a criminal charge, that you don't sit on the Board of Commissioners until that criminal charge has went through? And I know others have been talking about this, and I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but I think the public would probably want to know, why is this still going on? And I don't think that has been defined in any way, shape, or form. And I think a lot of people are confused as to why somebody who was out on bond is sitting up here on this board. So I'm not an attorney. I did not go to law school, did not pass the bar exam. But I can read. And I was able to find some general statutes that seem to apply to this very situation. Earlier this morning, you guys, it seemed, were not aware of an ethics code that you have. I knew about that from a board member of another board in the county. There are multiple things that you could use, I believe, not to, once again, not to remove the person, but just, let's just make this calm and cool, make it make sense to the public, and let things pass. And then once the final decision comes out, that person can come back or that person will not come back. I mean, it's that simple. It's just common sense. And it would show a lot of transparency from this board if you guys would follow those types of common sense steps to the public. I don't think I said my name. Joe Preston, Johnston County, been here 12 years. I live in the Wilson Mills area. Just asking you to use common sense, and I would hope that also the board member to my right would also maybe just remove himself from some things until it has been determined in a court of law. I think because at the end of the day, we're supposed to be doing all of this for the betterment of the county, not for the betterment of ourselves. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Yeah, and as I stated earlier, this is not a time for questions and answers, but we do appreciate you coming forward and stating what you needed to state, so thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Mr. Tedderton, good to see you again.
This morning, my name's Tony Tedderton. I didn't elaborate much because I was trying to be just as quickly as not waste your time as much as possible, but I still do own property here in Johnston County. I have a piece of property up in Kenley, a home, and I also own some property outside of Pine Level, so it's not like I'm just in here meddling in county business. So, and I was probably a little too quick this morning, didn't explain 800 years. The Magna Carta was signed in 1215, and it gave the common man the rights that most of us enjoy now. And one of the hallmarks was that a man, or a person really, any person, is presumed innocent until proven guilty. And for us to try to convict somebody before there is a court, to me, is very small-minded. We don't know the facts. I mean, intentionally, the law enforcement isn't giving us the facts, and what little bit that we've read in the newspaper doesn't give us the right to come in here and judge anyone. That's what the courts are for. So, thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else?
I'm Jan Whitley, and I know that they're going to talk about the land policy, and there was just a few things I just want to reiterate, you know. I would love for, one, until we do get the new land use plan, to enforce our 2030 comprehensive plan, because it has a whole lot of what is in this Envision plan. And I was at the meeting of the Envision plan, and two of the main points that had so many of, they give us $500, and you put it in these sections, and two of the charts that you couldn't even read the questions were talking about, it was this maintaining the rural character and the particular features that are unique and contribute to the identity, and to discourage intense residential development in rural areas. So I would love, that's also just worded a little bit different in the current 2030 comprehensive plan. I'd love for it to be enforced along with the chapter 14, because it includes some of that as well in chapter 14. And also let's put a moratorium on subdivisions until we can get this approved and get all the things updated and corrected so everybody will be protected. The communities need protecting, and the adjoining landowners need to be protected as well. We need to, the developers need to work with us, you know, and see if we can work something out and protect our communities. We don't want to lose what, you know, we have grown up with. But anyway, and I guess I said I'm Jan Whitley, Brogdon, 6079 Brogdon Road, Smithfield. But I appreciate your time, and hope you can help protect us. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak? Mr. Leggett, good to see you.
Good evening, everyone, commissioners.
Good evening.
Commissioner Stevens, I've never been in front of you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I am Angelique Leggett. I am in Smithfield, North Carolina. Commissioner Braswell, never met you either. I have two things on my topic list, and I haven't heard them in here before. So The first one, earlier this morning, there was talk of the new taxes that are going to be assessed on the properties and the new building that's going on. So I wanted to mention maybe having a notice in the tax bills for our 65 and older property owners, our disabled veterans and military, and our disabled residents in Johnston County, so they know to apply for this tax benefit when it opens up in January. We have the homestead exemption here in North Carolina, and in my canvassing of communities, a lot of people who own homes do not know about it. So I just wanted to put that out there. Maybe there's something you guys can do with putting a notice in their tax bill to let them know, remind them, hey, apply for this. And with that, I'm going to also ask to consider making it an application that can be done online, where the information that is needed could be either uploaded and attached to make it easier for these elderly people. What we're doing is we're trying to make it easier for the elderly people who aren't coming out. Maybe they have a family member or a friend that could help them with the internet, but I think the homestead exemption is important for our current property owners, considering how much building we're doing, and we don't want them affected by the increase in property and things like that, okay? The second is more of an FYI for you guys. This is not under your jurisdiction. I've already done the research, but I wanted to bring it to your attention. We have slumlords in Johnston County, and the slumlords in Johnston County are affecting the lower to moderate income people. And these individuals are living in conditions that I wouldn't live in. I wouldn't want my children in, my mother, or grandmother, or any friend of mine. Unfortunately for them, it's not as easy for them to say, hey, I'm just going to get another place. We don't know why these people are living in these low-income houses. We don't know how they're getting the assistance. What we do know is that they need this housing. I have been in contact with an individual who is living in one of these conditions, and the only options she has is to call the fire department, have them do an inspection. Well, if the fire department goes in there and they see that it's an hazard or a health hazard, they're going to put her out. Where's she going to go? There's no backup plan for her. So we have people who are silent on these issues because they have nowhere to go. And as the Board of Commissioners for Johnston County, we don't want residents in our county to feel as though they don't have other options, even if they don't have the money that some of other residents may have. So I'm asking that as you continue with anything that you're doing, if even for one moment it comes across with the landlords in Johnston County, if there can be a policy in place or something that can support and help our low to moderate income residents when they're going through these situations. And before my 3 minutes is up, in New York and in Florida, they have the clerk of courts. Usually if you have a slumlord, they're not fixing the things, the tenant can go in and they can actually file something in court and have the money in an escrow in the court. Now, that would bring the clerk of courts into this whole mix, which could create a whole new policy thing. But there are other states that have the rent withholding statute that could help the low to moderate income residents who are living in very bad conditions. So that's all I wanted to say. That's all I'm going to say, and it's good seeing you all.
Thank you again for
Mr.
coming
Chairman.
and
Mr. Chairman,
your comments.
could I clarify just one thing?
Sure.
Because Angelique always has some good ideas. But while we were talking, I went and looked up the tax office. There is a line item there that it says exemptions, exclusions, and deferments, and it mentions those things that you mentioned. So it's out there. But I think it's an excellent idea to have a little insert into the tax bill.
Yep, that's right. Thank you. Thank you. It's good to see you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? All right, don't see anyone else. And there any additional comments other than Mr. Peterson's from this morning? Okay. All right. Then next we'll move on to the public hearings. And up first and last, we have a conditional zoning district hearing, case number 2020, to rezone .34 acres of a 1 acre tract on Highway 39 in O'Neill's Township. And Braxton, I will ask you to come forward and give us some background on that.
Yes, sir. Thank you, and good evening, Commissioners. Case 22-20 does involve a rezoning of a 3,400 acre tract or portion of 3,400 acres of a 1 acre tract located at 6217 NC 39 in O'Neill's Township from agriculture residential to general business conditional zoning district. Owner and applicant, owners Bonnie and Ricky Godwin, applicant David Ricky Godwin Jr. trustee. And conditional zoning is to allow for a car dealership. Utilities services provided by O'Neill's Fire and Thanksgiving Rescue. The property is currently zoned agricultural residential and is a non-conforming use for a music store, music distribution business. Surrounding land uses are AR, or zoning is AR and used for agriculture and residential purposes, and to include a church. Traffic on Highway 39 in this area is 2,900 vehicles per day. That's 2019 count. Highway 39 does appear on our CTP as a boulevard with adequate design capacity, and the property is located in an agricultural rural conservation area as per our current comprehensive plan. We'll note on page 6 of 18 in your package, you will see a list of conditions, both proposed by the applicant and some proposed by the planning board and agreed to by the applicant. Notably, number 8, which is the operation hours from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and number 9, limiting the storage and display of vehicles to a number of 4. That was reduced from 8 during the planning board meeting. Be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Mr. Newton? Let me get my instructions back out here. All right, at this time, thank you, Braxton. At this time, I would ask for the applicant to come forward and state their request and the proposed conditions.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hewitt.
Mr. Vice, members of the board, good to see you again.
See you.
I represent Chip Hewitt, 101 Blackstone Lane, Selma, Hewitt Law Group. I represent the applicant. And I think what's interesting, you hear car dealership, so we're at Deacon Jones, we're at Classic Ford, we're at wherever you can think about is a car dealership, and you're like, wow, that's a big deal. The interesting part about this, when you go to the ordinances,
Do you mind stepping closer to the microphone so make sure everybody can hear you?
when you go to the ordinances, whether it's 1 car, 2 cars, 3 cars, when you get the DMV license, it's a dealership. So that's why we're here. So when you look at this, and initially, and I'm sure you all do, you've read the package, the planning board recommended denial, and it was because of the land use plan, and I totally told them, I said, I get it, understand that. But the missing part about that is, the interesting part is, when you go there and you look at what the applicant's asking for, is the reality of the situation is that there's been a pre-existing non-conforming use there since the 70s. So when you look up here to wherever our actual GIS was done, and I like to carry my big one around because my eyesight's getting worse and worse. So I actually go from small sizes to big sizes.
It's on the screen now.
So when you look at it, and if we blow it up, we're talking about this concrete pad, that white concrete pad right there. The white concrete pad is what we're talking about. And you say, well, why are we here? Well, here's what happens. DMV says he's got to get his license. DMV says he's got to have an office space. So he's at a pre-existing non-conforming use. So to get it right, to actually start getting it where it's compliant with the county, rather than asking for forgiveness later, we're doing it now and asking for permission. We're doing it right. So it's actually the start of something in this area where you're going to get your zone. You're going to get your GBCZ if you approve this, and it's the start of what's going to happen out there. Because we can't control growth, but the reality of the situation is that building that's got the blue square around it, the entire building behind it, is a commercial enterprise. And you know that. It was known as Godwin Music. It's Raleigh Amusements. It has, at times, 40 to 50 vehicles there. We call that a fleet. It's got a fleet of vehicles. and it's had a fleet of vehicles out there since I've been here. So the point is, when he said, I got to get my license, DMV says you got to have an office. So there's already an office there with an address right behind the white concrete pad I just showed you. So what we're doing is, it is not for him to start trying to get used cars out on that concrete pad. He circulates his inventory. When his fleet vehicles get enough mileage, he's got to circulate them. It makes sense for him to go on the internet, sell them, put them right out front, and it's that kind of quick turnaround on the inventory. So that's what we're doing. So that's why when we went from 8 vehicles to 4 vehicles, we didn't lose any sleep over that. When they said the hours, we got some, the hours may be an issue, didn't lose any sleep on that, because he's going to be there doing this really through the internet, and it's by appointment only. So the signage is not an issue, the lighting is not an issue. We want to use what's there. And when you look at it with the hours of operation, the lay of the land is the church is right across from us. That's the biggest, I think, public use that's there. We're not going to bother with prayer meeting Wednesday night because we're closed. We're home. We're not going to bother with Sunday service because we're not open on the weekends. We're Monday through Friday. So that entirety of the church property there is in our opinion, not going to be an issue. Now, the interesting part, when you're headed down 39 like we're headed, I would say probably west, my direction serves me right, you can't even see the parking area after you pass it. So if you're coming from the opposite direction, you don't see it until you pass it. So I'm saying in terms of being a problem to the neighborhood and being, an eyesore, I'd say for the most part, and I'm going to be real candid with you, it really is one of those things. You probably could have parked a couple of vans out there, done it on the internet and said, I'm just kind of doing this on the side. But he wants to do it right. He wants to get his license, and he wants to be compliant. That's why we're here. Now, whenever the initial application went out, there was 11 notices sent. The planning board heard this. Nobody spoke in opposition to it. In terms of the planning board's vote, it was unanimous, which I did fall out of my chair. I did recover and get right back up. I'm like, wow, unanimous. Okay. But my point to this is I think the planning board understood that. So we're trying to be as less restrictive as we can and at the same time accomplish our goal here for this, Mr. Chairman. So I do have, and I do want to say this too. When you look at this property and you leave Highway 39, there is an easement that goes all the way down that property for the commercial enterprise, and he maintains that. He does that for the neighborhood. He does that himself through the business, through the Raleigh Amusement. All that will continue, and again, he wants to be a good neighbor, but I think if we do go forward and actually look at this, I'm hoping it's not going to be a problem with you. Now, I will say in studying this, the condition over the landscaping, and I didn't make a big deal out of it, when I went back and looked at it, given it's such a small area, and mainly for site triangle purposes, I'm not sure we need those trees and bushes out there on 39. And again, I'll whatever you think, I'm not trying to get out of anything. If you think you want it there, we'll plant some trees and bushes, but for site triangle purposes, I'm not sure that's a good idea for this little small 0.034 of an acre area. There is an independent survey provided by True Line Surveying in your package. If you don't have that, I got some extra copies. So, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, any questions, I'll be glad to answer. We have both applicants with us here.
Okay.
If you have questions.
Any questions for the applicant?
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
I don't have a question about the operation that they're talking about, but I do have a question about the lighting. I've had a problem with that lighting there myself, and I know that's the only, I've had some neighbors contact me, but the only problem they had was lighting. There's a pole out there at the corner facing generally towards 42 to the north. And when you come up that hill from the river and it's wet, like raining, you can't see anything. That light is too focused onto the highway and towards the north. That's the only problem I would see with it.
The one light, is it, and we're headed northwest toward?
Yeah, that's the way the light's focused. Traffic going south would be impacted, and the neighbors to the north would be impacted. I agree with you on the landscaping, though. They don't need it there.
Mr. Godwin, I think the answer to that is, it's a question I don't know the answer to. Are your lights, are they your private lights, or are they Duke, or who are they? And state your name and address for the record, sir.
David Ricky Goblin Jr., 460 Baton Pond Road, Selma. The light you're talking about, we had to put it up for security reasons. Ended up having to put cameras. We ended up having a lot of people pulling into that parking lot middle of the night, leaving trash, doing things. I learned many years ago, the best thing for security is cameras. Cameras don't work without lights. The light is bright. Now, I could call Wake again and see if they can. I've already called them once to angle it away, but a lot of that is 100% security. And if you'll go around that property of a night, it is lit up better than the hospital, better than a football field. And the neighbors around there will tell you, we love it because we feel secure.
Yep.
I agree with you on that because I had the same issue, but I can call Wake again, but that is there 100% for safety. And back to what Mr. Hewitt was alluding to, regional amusement is what it's called now because we have other offices in Wilmington and in Raleigh. The doors stay locked there. That's why the car lot would be for appointment only. Don't want people walking in and out. Mr. Goblin, you know that personally.
Yeah.
I know,
Oh, yeah.
we keep it locked. Mr. Braswell, you know that. The car lot is for the fleet of the vehicles. But if you read up to it, as a matter of fact, who got me on this idea was Chad Stewart. Once you sell more than 5 vehicles in a year, you're supposed to have a license. So that's why we've been doing this for almost 8 months, a year now.
It's over a year because I think we got caught up in COVID and a few things.
Okay.
But yeah, it's been a while.
So that is the whole reason behind this, is to try to do things legally and correctly instead of, as he said, just doing it and then come back and say, well, we're sorry. But Mr. Goblin, I will call Wake Electric again to get them to angle that light back more to the building.
Right.
But yes, sir, feel free to drive around there at night and you'll see what I'm talking about lights. There's probably 6 LED lights like that around the property.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Hewitt, are you asking us to, because it is conditioning zoning, are you asking us to take a look at item number 4, which is the buffers? Is that what you asked us to do?
Mr. Braswell, I am, because again, I didn't bring this up to the planning board, and it's not in the record, but after going back and studying it because of the site triangles, I would say, is that something that you feel is necessary?
Well, we got to do something that you agree to and what we agree to. And so basically, I guess, Mr. Chairman, will handle it if you want it. See if the board would want to look at item number 4.
Yeah.
And we're very comfortable with the limitation of 4 vehicles, the hours of
Yeah.
operation, and also the additional lighting, redirection of the lighting he just mentioned.
And so, wait, before I was going to get Mr. Newton to ask him a question, but I just wanted to clarify, so, and I think Mr. Godwin did, so it is for the sale of, I think you said regional music fleet vehicles, so that's what that's for?
His existing inventory, yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay.
And so you know, if the map is back up there.
You just kind of step a little closer.
Sir,
make
so
sure
you
we get-
know, when this process started, I ain't real smart. So when they said you got to
That
pick a
makes 2
spot,
of us.
well, yeah, it got me this far in life. They said, pick a spot, and if you'll see the concrete pad, matter of fact, you see 2 vehicles parked there now
Yeah.
on it. I said, well, just pick that concrete pad. I mean, we're not in it to.
Advertise.
Yeah, we ain't in it. It's a necessity of our business. It ain't to go and make a living off of.
Yeah. Well, I would guess my clarification was just to make sure, for those listening, that it is for the sale of your.
Yes, sir.
Fleet
I'm not gonna lie to you. Today, a guy came and picked up 2 vans. They both had 300,000 miles on them. At 300,000, we get rid of them. A guy came today and picked them both up. We put them out there on, well, my secretary, she puts them on that Facebook thing. I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm too old to know what that is. And we've been doing that. And that's basically the way it would continue. He calls when he gets up there, he don't even walk in the building. Don't want people in the building. We go out there and sign the titles, get them notarized, do everything the way we're supposed to. It's just, we don't have the license to do them correctly.
Right. Okay, and I guess the other question is, if I understand, the building, that's all going to be office space? Will there be any other non-conforming uses that are still continued in that building?
That still operates as regional amusements. It's been there since 1970. Well, excuse me, pretty much it's been there the last 30 years. Before then, it was just a warehouse, and it's been added to over the years.
So I guess my question is, are we restricting the non-conforming, when they go for conditional use, are we putting conditions on that and restricting what it's used for now? And that's maybe a question of Raston or council.
So I would think you could reduce the area to be rezoned to restrict it to a 96 square feet, which is what he has to have by NCDMB standards for his office space. That's the minimum he has to have in order, for office space, in order to have a dealer's license.
And there is a small office right there, and there's a 911 address. Can you give that for the record?
It's 6217A by rule. And NC.
Yeah, come on over to the microphone.
NC Highway 39. As a matter of fact, if you look at that picture, you'll see the building facing this far side, you'll see a green object. That's the door to it.
Okay.
So, and that's a dead office now. So it sort of worked out. They said you had to have an office, you had to have a spot. I said, well, there's a door, there's the concrete. No problem, problem solved.
Okay. Well, again, I just didn't want to put restrictions on the rest of the building if anybody took issue with that. I just wanted to clarify so that we're talking about the concrete pad, the space up front, and 96, a minimum 97 or 96 square foot. Is that?
We're still on this concrete pad.
Yeah.
I think you can address that. Okay. Yeah. And I think his question, Mr. Chairman, was the concern over beautification, and with the front being all asphalt, we're going to be hard pressed putting a tree in that asphalt. But again, I'll leave that to your discretion.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
No, I tend to agree with Mr. Hewitt and Mr. Goblin that Commissioner Goblin, that, as long as I remember, it's been there, and as long as I can drive up and down 39, but I don't see that restriction is in regard to the buffers, to buffer a 90 or whatever square foot on that concrete pad is, just to keep beautification. It makes no sense to me. But anyway, that's just me.
And it's been there all this time.
Been there all this time.
Nobody's had a problem with it.
The pad ain't gonna create no problem.
So I guess, and this is probably not a question for you, but with the change to the 96, do we still do the .34 acres, or do we reduce that? How do we handle that piece so that we're not restricting?
We would reduce, you could simply just leave it to reduce the area, to reduce the rezone or the zoning parcel, to exclude that area of the structure included that would not house that office space. And that office space, whatever those dimensions can be, we can do that field. We can do that field verification with the owner.
Does it have to be one of the conditions, Braxton?
Yes, you're going to need to clarify what your zoning area is or what your zoning parcel is.
And the rest would still be grandfathered, right?
Right. Yeah, that was, I guess that's my main concern. Is I don't want to confuse anything with the part that's already grandfathered and you're conducting other business operations in, so.
And the other thing, Counselor, actually just made me aware, we could actually assign the building, the address 6217A for the office space. That should clarify.
Okay.
That's agreeable, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Anyone else here wishing to speak to this item? All right. And I guess at this point, do we have discussion now about item number 4 to see if that's removed, or do we wait till we close? Because right now I'm hearing we're adding number 12 for lighting, and then possibly removing 14 and correcting the address. But, all right, Preston, if you would.
So with regard to case 22-20, planning board recommendation is approval. Planning board does submit for your consideration the resolution regarding a statement of consistency with comprehensive plan.
All right, I was supposed to close the public hearing before you got up, but I just did that now, so, all right. And so, is there any discussion before we ask the applicant about the final conditions on item 4 in particular? That was one that I heard.
I'm
potentially
like
remove?
everybody else, I don't see any need for the landscaping and the asphalt. I don't think we're going to accomplish anything by it.
No, I think it could contribute to the security problem, or potentially, by having that there, so I think it's best not to have it.
All right, is that the consensus of the board to remove
Number 4.
condition number 4?
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
And as far as adding number 12, would not 7 cover that?
Hang on.
The lighting shall be dark sky and engineered so as not to shine on adjacent
Okay,
properties.
probably so. I was just looking through there, so.
Yeah.
All right, so we don't need to worry about number 12. All right, so with those changes, and do we put the condition on the address, or do we just correct the address in some other procedural?
I would add the condition with regard to the
Okay,
60.
to change it, so that would be,
6217A US, NC 39. I would.
that technically now is condition 11, since we dropped 4, I
Yes.
guess.
All right.
All right, I think we've got that squared away. And applicant, is that, y'all agree to those changes to the conditions?
We agree, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. And if he didn't get close, they agreed to the conditions. So I will now, let's see where I am with all this yellow on here. Close the hearing and turn it over to the commissioners for their.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the statement of consistency resolution as presented in the agenda packet and approve the rezoning request with the deletion of condition number 4 and the rest in place.
And addition of 11.
627A.
Yeah,
the address.
that was given. Yep.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Newton, we'll turn it back to you for.
I'm sorry I didn't
oh,
call you.
Sorry. A planning report update and also an update on our comprehensive land use plan.
Yes, sir. Just 2 quick items. One is comprehensive plan. Planning board will be convening a meeting in this chamber on Wednesday, August 3rd, this coming Wednesday, so day after tomorrow, at 6 p.m., our project team will be presenting the draft plan in its entirety to the planning board. That is open to the public. We have completed our public notice of that meeting, a special call meeting, and this is a special call meeting of the planning board. So you're obviously, it is open to the public, and we do encourage the public to attend and view that, view the draft plan as well, although we have presented to the public already. Additionally, was discussed last meeting, and the board agreed to, or directed staff to work on an RFQ for a comprehensive transportation plan that is in the works, and we should have that for you by your mid-month meeting, which is August the 15th, 16th, something of that nature. So we will have that for you on August 15th.
All right. Any
Braxton.
questions?
Yeah,
Yes.
Braxton,
Yes, sir.
since it's going to be held in this room, is there any way we can live stream it
We are working on that, yes, sir.
for the public out there?
Sir, we will work on that.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Any other questions, Mr. Newton? All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now we have manager reports and comments.
No report. Thank you, sir.
All right. Board reports and comments.
We need to continue on our sewer plan. We need to get a resolution.
All right. Anyone else? I will not open any can of worms this evening, so no comments from me. And we have a need to go into closed session, before I look for a motion for that.
Mr. Chairman, I move the board go into closed session for the purpose of consulting with an attorney employed by the board in order to preserve attorney-client privileges pursuant to NCGS 143-318-11A3, and to discuss matters relating to the location or expansion of industries or other businesses in the area pursuant to NCGS 143-318-11A4. Only got 2 tonight.
Good job.
Thank you for eliminating.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I do have a question of council. So any potential action that we'll come out with, or?
Perhaps.
Okay, so we'll see how it goes, but there may be potential action once we get out of closed session, so. With that, we will go into closed session. Oh, never mind, I guess I need to make a, we got a motion second, I discussed, so all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We're now in closed session.